Hi, I'm Droolbatz. So nice to see you. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 2017 horror film Stephanie. I will be reviewing it based on its premise, its production value, and finally how it stands apart from or blends into other films of the genre. I hope you enjoy. Stephanie is a girl living alone in a modern day house. The film kind of opens just kind of revealing her day-to-day experience. She watches her little cartoon DVDs, she tries to cook food for herself, she plays with her stuffed animal, and she puts herself to bed at night. There's some kind of scary creature lurking around. We're not sure if it's in the house, if it lives in the woods outside, what's going on exactly, but sometimes when Stephanie starts to get a little bit afraid, usually at night, the power goes out and she can hear this creature roaming around outside. Stephanie is able to avoid the monster by getting down low and just being really, really quiet and just staying really, really calm and just kind of quietly wishing it to go away. Stephanie gets really mad. She goes into another room and goes, "You're supposed to protect me. You're my older brother." And you see this corpse hand underneath this sheet on this bed, and she like holds the hand and it squeezes her back. Her parents show up one day. She screams, "Mommy, Daddy." They are so startled that Stephanie is alive, but they're like, "Oh my gosh, Stephanie, you're alive." She goes, "You shouldn't have left me. Why did you leave me? You left me because you thought the monster got me, but it didn't. I'm still here." And they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry, baby." Like, oh my gosh. While Stephanie is sleeping one day, they quietly take Paul's body and bury it because they don't want to upset her. But she sees that Paul is gone and she gets kind of upset. Her dad is building this like really tall wall around their house. I guess he's like an architect or something to try to keep the monster out. The monster has already like killed her pet rabbit that lived outside and things like that. Stephanie is she's really glad to have her parents back, but of course things are weird and she doesn't understand what's going on. Things on the news are a little bit interesting. It's pretty apparent that some kind of unknown entity has emerged. We're not sure if it's touched down from outer space or if it was here all along or what's going on, but this entity is terrorizing people. While Stephanie's hanging out with her parents, suddenly her mom like screams from the other room, and Paul's dead body that they had buried out in the woods is suddenly like back in the house. Stephanie goes, "Why did the monster do that?" And they say, "We don't know why the monster does anything that it does." So what is the deal with this monster? Where did it come from? What is its goal? Why does it do the things that it does? And how can they survive? How can they defeat this monster? So this is kind of a slow burn movie. It's very much about the experience of the little girl Stephanie, especially as she's living alone in this house before her parents get back. A lot of her life is revealed through flashbacks to the early days, like when Paul was alive or when her rabbit was alive, things like that, before this strange entity appeared in their lives. It's a very, very experience-rich movie. You really kind of get to know Stephanie, like the little ins and outs of her personality. The set is very rich and you get to see a lot of it. You get to see all of the rooms of their house really well. You get to see the outside, their yard, the grounds around their home. You get to see things from different angles, so it really feels like you're immersed in the story. So while it is a little bit of an intentionally slower paced film, it's very experientially rich. The acting was very good. Obviously, anytime you have a movie featuring a young child, you need a very good actor, and this girl was very good. She was very good at kind of like displaying just the little ins and outs of being a child from day to day. That was kind of cute, but also she's very skilled at like changing personas based on the mood. Her screams were very like realistic, not, canned screams. Her laughter was genuine. It was just really pleasant to see a child actor act in this kind of very natural way. The footage was very high definition. You could tell that they had a really high-powered camera, which was very nice. But the film had a lot of color skewing sort of towards the cool colors. Part of it was because a lot of this film takes place at night, which is kind of when the monster tends to come out. And all the nighttime scenes, they've obviously been digitally darkened. They weren't shot at night, probably. They were they were just darkened post-production, and that's okay, but it was noticeable, and it kind of made for a slightly murkier feel as far as like the hue and the tint on screen. But some people really like that, so it kind of just felt like a lot of other films that were, you know, shot in the digital age with that digital color skewing. The film was really good about keeping up the suspense because you're kind of just thrown into this really questionable experience. You're not really sure what's going on, and you're kind of discovering it as you go along instead of you're presented with all the facts and then the story launches from there. I think that kind of helped keep the suspense up. As more is revealed, you're honestly just raising more and more questions as you watch. The dialogue was a little bit hard to hear in this movie. The little girl, Stephanie, she spoke pretty quietly. She was by herself. She was speaking very quietly because she thought that being quiet meant the monster couldn't get her. Her parents also kind of spoke in a low tone of voice for most of the movie, and I did find that I had to turn the volume up on my laptop while watching a little bit more than I usually have to. Usually I can watch movies at like volume level 4 or maybe 6. I had to turn this up to a 10. That's pretty hard. I had subtitles on too because it was very hard to hear the little girl at various points throughout the movie. So that might have been an artistic choice, but it's not exceptionally pleasant for people who like the full experience of hearing things. So just keep that in mind. Background music and the sound effects were very good, but the dialogue was a little bit hard to hear. Now I'm going to talk about how this movie stands apart from or blends into other films of the genre. I will be spoiling this movie. So if you don't want any spoilers, please take this as your cue to leave now. I'll give you a minute to do so. Are they gone? Are they gone like Stephanie's parents? Okay. We know from the little snippets of TV that we're able to see that a mysterious entity is terrorizing people, and it looks like there are a couple of facilities set up in areas like Mumbai and near the White House to kind of study what's going on and figure out how they can stop this monster. As is, Stephanie's parents don't really have any of the resources to do that. Stephanie's just happy to be back with her family, but she hears her parents kind of like quietly talking at different points, and she's trying to hear what they're saying, and it seems like the monster gets a little bit more active when her parents are like high tension, so you wonder, does the monster feed off of emotions? Stephanie's parents try to perform an at-home surgery on her, but she wakes up, and the monster attacks. It turns out the monster is Stephanie. She then goes on kind of a rampage. Her parents don't want to kill her. It's their daughter and they love her, and you know, they can't imagine life without her. They say, Stephanie, do you remember what happened to Paul? She stops and like really thinks about it in this deep hypnosis, and it turns out Stephanie actually killed Paul with some kind of telekinetic outburst when he was like teasing her or something dumb. I'm pretty sure it's not just Stephanie being telekinetic. There's some kind of monster cohabitating her body. Her parents are trying to fight this entity. Stephanie's like, no, mom, dad, I can control it, look. And like when she just calms down, it kind of loses power and she's able to just be herself. But the fact is that little kids can't really super control their emotions, and she goes on a rampage with this monster in her and murders her parents in this fantastical CGI way, and drags their lifeless bodies telekinetically through the woods until she drops them by Paul's grave. Then she walks into the town where everything is smashed and destroyed from other psychotic children. So far, all attempts to quell the children have not worked. We, the audience, are never really told anything conclusive about what the creatures are. Like, is it some kind of outer space thing that has come to Earth, or are all children demonic always, and like some kind of weird magic spell suddenly awoke this part of them? Is it some kind of old world Lovecraftian being that exists as a spore that was somehow disturbed, and like spores traveled through the air and landed on all the children, and all the children are crazy now? Like, we're never really told what it is. It was kind of similar storytelling wise to the film A Quiet Place, in that they're in this kind of weird, newish world. Everything that's going on is not fully explained to the audience. You just kind of have to like know what the people in the movie know, or less. And by that same token, as far as how the story was told, it's a very experiential film and you kind of learn as you go. I think that's very good in that you're being shown, you're not being told. The concept of like show, don't tell in films, I think is part of what makes the experience really good. You don't have any awkward exposition or something. It does leave a little bit more mystery to it, but that usually can be good. And this movie, obviously premise-wise, it's not similar to A Quiet Place, but just how the story was told is very similar. The premise was very unique, obviously, but you're never really told anything very conclusive. Some people like that and some people don't. I'm kind of middle of the fence about that. I thought it was all right, just because you're told a lot about this creature, but you still don't know what it is or where it came from or what it wants. I personally had fun thinking up different theories. Like at one point I thought somehow like her stuffed animal turtle Francis got possessed and like he was the one doing it all, but no. So I mean, it's fun if you just like to like think up crazy theories yourself, which I do. But I can see where some people would not be satisfied with the answer. I feel like A Quiet Place, it had a mysterious creature or whatever, but the people kind of were able to a little bit figure out how to combat it. Obviously, they took their blows and their losses, but there was some hope in A Quiet Place, and I don't know about this movie. It kind of leaves you feeling confused and a little hopeless about the situation. So my big thing is that in the movie A Quiet Place, there are these creatures, we don't know where they came from or anything about them. They're out hunting, whatever. In this movie, it kind of seemed like the creatures were sharing a body with the children. I don't think the children were possessed. I think it was just like some kind of spore got into the children and was like symbiotically sharing their body or something. But my thing is that children need homes to live in and children need food. So like this monster like destroying a home where all the food is just like logically that doesn't make sense because the children will die if they don't get food, if they're not protected from the elements. So I would feel like the monsters would generally want to kind of conceal their presence instead of trying to take over the children. But again, because we don't know anything about the situation, I feel like that kind of observation has no place here. But that was just my thing. I was like, if I were like a telekinetic beast who was like living inside a child, I would like control the child to eat candy or whatever. But like, I mean, I wouldn't destroy the kid's house. I wouldn't destroy the kid's family because the kid's family are providing for that child. But whatever. I'm not a crazy monster, so I don't know how they think. If I had to rate this movie, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a very rich film experience. It really transported you. It was very scary, it was very mysterious, and it was just really fun to watch. That said, the audio mixing was just not good enough for me. It was really hard for me to hear it, and that did take away from the experience a little bit for me, and I'm sure it will for other people too. Because the ending was so inconclusive, it was a little bit hard to assess my feelings on the movie. The experience was good, but it's like as far as the actual story goes, I'm not sure my full thoughts on it because the ending was so inconclusive. So that's why I wouldn't give it a higher score. 4 out of 5 is pretty high, actually. It was a very unique premise. I think the way that they depicted the stuff going on was very unique as well. Just a few minor things kind of drop it down from a 5 to a 4. I would love to know your thoughts about this movie if you saw it. Like, what's your hypothesis on what this creature is? Do you have any opinions? Please let me know any of your opinions. I just, love hearing what other people have to say. Please let me know if you liked this video by liking this video. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope that it was really helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.